Hades is one of the highest praised games of the last few years, and looking back on it, I'm surprised it's already been 4 years since it came out. It has a really awesome combination of great gameplay, unique storytelling, doing this by taking the mechanics of a roguelike and implementing it into the story in a way that's actually really interesting. It's very different. That particular combination is pretty hard to find, but there are some games that have tried to fit into that niche, so let's talk about what some of those are. You'll be surprised to know that one of the most similar games to Hades is actually a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. I know, I was pretty skeptical too, but the comparison is pretty impossible not to see if you actually play it. It has all of the elements, quick-paced gameplay that ramps up as you upgrade over time. Story elements are there, but obviously it's TMNT, so it's a bit more lighthearted, right? So not going to be as heavy themes. The gameplay is much more fun than you might think. It's actually really quick-paced and nice. TMNT Splintered Fate has gone below the radar, but the people that have played it have a lot of good things to say. It may not reach the heights of Hades, but for those who want similar gameplay, you could do a lot worse than this. Give it a shot. You might be surprised. If you want the gameplay side of Hades and don't mind too much about the story side, check out Curse of the Dead Gods. The gameplay is very similar, all the roguelike trappings, dungeons, monsters to kill, all that stuff. It also has a system where you slowly build up Curse, and this happens through some of the choices that you're making as you're playing. If Curse builds up too high, it can end up ruining your run. It's a pretty cheap game too. At the time of this video coming out, it's on sale for $5, so with the easy point of entry, definitely worth trying out. Dreamscaper is one of those games with an aesthetic that you might love, you might hate, but it does a lot of things right. You've got the roguelike style of combat, upgrading, dying, rinse and repeat. It also does have a story that hits on some pretty deep themes, stuff like moving into a new place, finding it hard to settle in, all the things that come with that emotionally, and this leads the protagonist to fight their nightmares, literally. But it also has you getting to know other people in town, so it has this combination of story and roguelike gameplay. I think this combination will appeal to fans of Hades. Ravenswatch is the next game from the developers of Curse of the Dead Gods, so they've taken a lot of what they've learned and applied it here. This time you have 9 different heroes that you can choose from, and the premise is pretty simple. You have 3 days and 3 nights to get yourself ready, and then, ready or not, you fight a boss. It has a ton of different builds you can choose from, and of course randomly generated maps that lend itself to replaying the game in a lot of different ways. So for fans of Hades and Curse of the Dead Gods, this one just makes sense to play. Children of Morta came out a year before Hades, and it has a lot of similarities, though it definitely has its own style. Children of Morta has a lot going for it and will be especially good for people that like the pixel art style. It has an interesting story to keep you engaged, and gameplay that is fun to go through, though some people say the story is much better than the moment-to-moment gameplay. You'll have to find out for yourself. It's pretty easy to get into a game like this that doesn't take a huge amount of time to finish, so that's great for somebody who just wants something new after their 100th run of Hades and Hades 2. Is a bit of a palate cleanser, and you can find it for very cheap too. This one isn't a perfect comparison. There's some games that are more similar, but I feel like I have to recommend checking out Binding of Isaac to people. This is a game that some people are still playing to this day. It really got the roguelike formula down to a science, so if it's the addicting nature of the roguelike formula that you're into, this is one of the greats, and one that I would highly recommend to anyone trying out the genre. So it's more of a genre that I'm sending you towards here. Maybe it'll send you off in a whole different style of games that you didn't know you wanted. So that's it, and obviously there are a ton more games that you could check out in this style, but I think this is a good starting point. Obviously, if you haven't checked out the Hades developers' previous games, you should probably go do that as well. Transistor, Bastion, great games that are worth playing through. If you have any other games you think would fit, mention them in the comments. Thanks for watching.